President Trump's relationship with the American media appears to have plunged to new depths, with a CNN journalist banned from the White House. In the first press conference since the Republican Party lost control of the House of Representatives, news correspondent Jim Acosta quizzed the president on his comments about migrants traveling to the southern U.S. border. Here's what happened.
I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President,
that's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other question, if I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have?
I'm not concerned about anything with the Russian investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter, go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts his butt.
Well, I'm not
like
a big
the rest
fan
of
of yours either, so
I understand.
To be honest.
So let me ask you a question if I can. You repeatedly said...
You are the best.
Mr. President, you repeatedly, over the course of the...
Okay, just sit down, please. Well, when you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people. Go ahead.
Mr. President.
White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders has described this moment where Mr. Acosta prevented a White House intern from taking the microphone from his hands as absolutely unacceptable. She says the Trump administration will never tolerate a reporter placing his hands on a young woman just trying to do her job. Mr. Acosta has tweeted a reply saying Mrs. Sanders' assertion that President Trump believes in a free press is a lie. Well, Sarah Sanders says the administration stands by its decision to withdraw Mr. Acosta's White House press credentials until further notice. Ali Malloy, a White House producer at CNN, tweeted, "This is a complete lie. The woman grabbed Jim's arm repeatedly. He never once touched her. In fact, at one point, Jim Acosta tells her politely, 'Pardon me, ma'am,' as she's yanking on his arm." Let's speak to Amanda Walker now, who joins us live from Washington. And this is dominating the headlines the day after the midterms, Amanda.
It is, and what you have here is an escalation. This has been going on for a long time, Donald Trump's war with CNN, particularly with Jim Acosta, but I think yesterday it got out of control. And what you have is essentially the White House accusing Jim Acosta of assaulting this young intern, and I think the evidence is there proving that that was not the case. CNN have boldly called this a lie. This could escalate. This is something that Donald Trump has made a theme of his presidency, even of his campaign. Interestingly, in that news conference yesterday, he said, people like me, people like what I'm doing. That's true of a lot of people, but it's not true of a lot of other people. Donald Trump wants everybody to like him. He thinks the media is the reason that not everybody does. So when he gets questions like that about the caravan, about immigration, about essentially the very dark rhetoric that he was using in his campaigning in the midterms, he doesn't like it, and that's where these situations come from. But yesterday, it's hard to believe, isn't it, that the real story of the day was the results of the midterm elections when you had so much else happening. Of course, the headline really for the day should have been that the Democrats won the House of Representatives, that the Republicans gained some seats in the Senate, when what we were talking about was the firing of Jeff Sessions, Donald Trump's Attorney General. People were not surprised by that. They were taken aback by the fact that it happened yesterday. They were also taken aback by the fact that his replacement, Matthew Whitaker, in a sort of legal commentator role, had essentially said that the Mueller investigation, of course the Russia investigation into possible collusion between Trump's campaign and the Russians, should be kind of pulled back, should be restricted, should possibly have its funding brought down. That's very much in line with what Donald Trump would like to see happen to this so-called witch hunt. So that is obviously raising the alarm among Democrats who are saying, look, this is not the right person. This person needs to recuse themselves like Jeff Sessions did. So much going on, so much happening so quickly. Who knows what today will bring, Sarah?
Okay, Amanda, indeed, thanks very much.
This is all very interesting. I love this when you have Sky News making a response to something that's happened with a CNN reporter. Now, Sky News is even worse than CNN, as far as I'm concerned. They have never said one good word about Trump from the day he announced his intention to stand for the presidency. Not one good word. And they never go back on what they say. They tell any number of lies about him, and they never go back on it. Now, the woman from CNN said that what Trump claimed happened at that news conference was a lie. Well, it quite patently wasn't a lie, because you could see quite clearly that Acosta pushed the girl's arm down as she tried to take the microphone, whereas the CNN woman said she was grabbing his arm many times. I mean, it's an absolute load of rubbish. And then you have the Sky News woman come along, and she's, instead of talking about what was happening at that news conference, where instead of talking about the midterm elections, Trump was being picked on about the caravan and other nonsense that had cropped up. And the woman, instead of making some sort of intelligent comment about the lack of questions about the midterm election, which should have been on the top story, she went through a character analysis of Trump. I mean, are news journalists supposed to carry out character analysis of the President of the United States? I mean, what business is it of theirs? So he likes people to like him, does he? Oh dear. Well, perhaps that is somebody else's job to decide whether they like the President or not, and not Sky News.